my friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be working specifically on our wrists and hands. This is a great practice for anybody who works at a desk, types a lot, writes a lot. If you're a rock climber, even if you just do a lot of yoga, this is a great practice to kind of work on your forearms, your wrists, and your hands. You're going to need a tennis ball or a myofascial release ball. If you don't have one, a foam roller will also work, or any kind of ball that has a bit of a give. I highly suggest tennis ball or a myofascial release ball. They are the best, and they will help you the most in this practice. So let's get started. Hello my friends, welcome to this wrist and forearm release practice. It will be fairly quick. We're mostly just trying to work into everything from the elbow down and work on activating our hands while we practice yoga and in any other kind of practice where you use your hands, maybe rock climbing, or if you work with tools, this will be a great practice for you. So we'll go ahead and start. We're just going to start by warming up our forearms and our hands. Then we'll work into some engagement work and showing you how to use your hands on the mat. And then we'll just do some stretches and releases with the tennis ball or myofascial release ball. Perfect. So go ahead and start at an easy seat. I'm just going to sit back on my feet. You can sit crisscross applesauce. You can have a bolster under your legs. Just make yourself comfortable. We're focusing on the arms, so you want to make sure your lower body is comfortable. So we're going to start just by warming up. So we're going to inhale our arms up to the sky and just kind of relax our shoulders down the spine. Hands are kind of floating, and you're just going to start by closing your fists and opening them quickly. So kind of flicking the fingers out, closing your fists, squeezing tight, flicking the fingers out. Close your fists, flick. Close your fingers to a fist, flick. Make a fist, flick. Now we're going to go really fast. So fist, flick, fist, flick. I can't even say that. Fist, flick, fist, flick. Kind of just like you're saying hello. Like little kids say hello, and keep going as fast as you can. Making a fist and flicking your fingers. Might be like a little off on each hand. That's okay. Keep going. Might feel a little burn. That's great. Keep going. Try to go as fast as you can. Woo, almost there. Good, and relax the hands down. Perfect. So you can probably feel some energy buzzing through the hands and the wrists. That's great. That's exactly what we want. This is a great wrist warm-up to do before any of your yoga practices. You can also do it down here before you start your yoga practice. That's also a very fun thing to do. So from there, I'm going to kind of work with you to show you how to place your hands on the mat in a healthy and comfortable way. A lot of us injure our wrists fairly quickly in yoga because we're placing our hands in kind of a non-intuitive way or a not mindful way. Yoga is a mindful movement practice, and placing our hands on the mat is actually more complicated than you would think. So this is a great way for you to learn how to place your hands on the mat, support your body, and kind of reduce injury in the hands, wrists, and forearms. So I'm going to kind of teach you how to engage into your mat, and then we'll do a few poses and kind of focus only on the hands in those poses. So we'll start at a tabletop, and you're just going to have your hands stacked under your shoulders, and we're going to focus on engaging your hand into the mat. So right now, your spine should be neutral, chin should be slightly tucked, and your hand should be pushing into the mat. So when I say push, I don't mean just like hanging out here, dumping in the chest, just like, yeah, I'm here in tabletop. I mean, you're pushing your hands into your mat, your shoulders are active, and your spine's kind of puffing up towards the sky. Good. And now we're going to work by lifting each finger up and then putting it down. So starting with the pinkies, I can barely get my pinkies up. Kind of try and lift them up and tap them down. Both at the same time. Good. And let's move to the ring fingers. Only the ring finger lifts. You might be like, oh my gosh, Bri, my fingers aren't lifting. That's okay. Just work on focusing your mind to lift that finger. Good. Let's move to the middle finger. Only the middle fingers are moving. You might be feeling some muscles you've never felt before. That's always fun. Then move to the pointer finger. Just lifting the finger up and tapping it. That one's a little bit easier for me. And then to your thumbs. You might have a good range of motion here. Good. So now when we're pushing our hands into the mat, you want to focus on pushing your fingers. So you're kind of clawing at your mat. So go ahead and look at my hands and watch them claw at the mat. And then I release them long, clawing at the mat. Release them long. You might be like, Bri, you're crazy. Just claw at your mat and release them long. Good. We'll do that a few more times. Again, we're just focusing on activating these fingers and getting them ready to push into this mat. Okay. So you're probably feeling a little bit of a burn in the hands and ready to kind of try this out in a few poses. So I really want you to focus on pushing your fingers into the mat and not your wrists. So a lot of us will dump into our wrists and our fingers are just up here floating around, doing what they want to do. You might even find that you go up on the hands like this. The fingers should be very actively pushing into the mat. Your thumb and your pointer finger are going to be taking a lot of the weight off of your wrists, and it's going to help you to engage your arms, engage your core, and actually get more out of your pose. So we're going to go ahead and do a downward facing dog. So walk your hands forward, curl your toes under, and bring your hips up to the sky. So right here, all we're focusing on is our hands. What are your hands doing in this pose? If your fingers are pointed up, a lot of us tend to rotate our hands up so that our thumb isn't even touching the mat, and that's going to cause a lot of wrist pain. So what I want you to focus on is pushing your thumb and your pointer finger into the mat. Just those two fingers, and you'll kind of find that the rest of the fingers engage with them. You might notice that you have more activation in the arms. Your arms are going to be like, oh yeah, we're feeling pretty stable here. This pose feels pretty good. So you can focus on different aspects of the pose once your hands are actively pushing into the mat. It's kind of a nice way to reduce the mind space from thinking of the hands and the wrists and, oh, this really hurts, to focusing on the opening of the chest, lengthening through the back body, and just getting more out of the pose. Good. So we'll go ahead and do a plank now. This is another pose where we're on our hands a lot. Our hands are taking a lot of our weight, and we want to make sure that we're doing this correctly. So I'm going to just start on my knees for a plank. I'm just bringing my body weight over my wrists. And again, you could do this and kind of dump your chest forward. What I want you to do is push those hands into the mat, arch through the upper spine, and really engage the whole body as you push the hands into the mat. Maybe even claw those fingers a bit. Good. You're feeling the activation. That core is probably shaking. Even if you're on your knees, you're going to feel it. And the hands are definitely doing the work here. And they're helping to support the body so that it feels just more ready for the pose. Go ahead and come out of that plank pose. Good. So that's just a very quick introduction on how to engage your hands into the mat. You can also focus on just pushing your hands into the mat and releasing, and just trying to get an even distribution throughout the whole hand. So just pushing whole body, lifting up. Pushing down, lifting up. Pushing down, fully lifting up. Pushing down, lifting up. So those are a few exercises you can try to kind of make that mind to body connection to your hands, that they need to be working too. They are your supporters. They're just as important as your feet in the poses. They're going to help you feel more stable so that you can get more opening throughout the rest of your body, right? It's really important that you get the basics of placing your hands on the mat. I know it sounds like a simple action, but it actually can be pretty complicated. So next time you work through your practice, maybe try to just focus on your hands for the whole practice. That's a really fun thing to do with the mind, to just focus on the hands and feet and see how they're feeling in each pose and how you can adjust them to support yourself better. All right, so we're just gonna do some stretches now to kind of help with releasing the wrists, and then we'll get into the myofascial release, and then we'll be done. So to start the stretches, you're gonna come to your tabletop again, and you're just gonna swivel your fingers back so that they're facing your knees. So kind of reversing the hands. And this is a pretty intense stretch for me. I work an office job full time, so my wrists are pretty tight. But if you'd like to start leaning back, you can do so. Just try and keep your wrists and your palms planted on the mat. So if they start to peel up, you're not getting as good of a stretch. So go ahead and keep your palms planted on the mat and just lean back. Once you feel that stretch, you can hang out right there for a moment. We'll just take a few breaths here. Good. Maybe start to lean a little bit deeper. Perfect. Now we're going to start to peel our hands up and just bring them side to side. So they're going to be pointing towards the long edges of your mat. Good. And then we're just going to rock left to right. And again, while we're doing this, pay attention to your fingers. What are they doing? Are they pushing into the mat? Are they just kind of hanging out there, not really thinking about supporting you? You want them to support you, so push those fingers into the mat. Then maybe you want to rock back and forward. Just a little massage here. Perfect. Good. Now we're going to go ahead and bring the fingers back towards the front of the mat. And we're going to take our right hand, flip it under, and then place the top of the hand on the mat. So you're kind of stretching the top of the wrist. It feels really good after all that compression. And you can start to bend into the elbow and sit back. And just kind of push the top of the hand into the mat. And you can rock left to right. That might feel good. Good, and then go ahead and unlace that hand, and we'll move to the other hand by flipping that wrist under, placing the top of the hand on the mat, bending through the elbow and sitting back. Finding a nice point where you feel the stretch, and then just rocking left and right. Just massaging the other side of the hand. Perfect. Go ahead and unlace that hand. We'll come to a thunderbolt position. So sitting yourself up and back onto your feet. We're just going to do a few more mobility exercises with the wrists, and then we'll do a quick myofascial release, and then you're good to go. So we'll go ahead and start by bringing the hands together, lacing the fingers, and making a fist. We're going to do some figure 8 swirls here. So just kind of like I explained it, you're going to draw a figure 8 with the palms, like I'm doing. Might be a little sloppy of a figure 8, depending on your wrist mobility. Just drawing an 8, or that infinity sign. You can go as fast or as slow as you want. trying to keep the palms touching, so not loosening here, keeping them touching. Making that figure 8. Good. Now go ahead and switch directions. This is where your brain goes, oh, what am I doing? Good. Then go ahead and just flick unlace your fingers and flick your hands out. Let them go floppy. Good. And then we're just going to bring our hands together, so interlaced, but just out in front. We're going to do some roller coasters. So you bring your elbow up, swirl through the arm, kind of like the worm, but with your arms. Roller coaster arms. This one feels really good at the beginning and end of a yoga practice. Now let's see if we can switch it the other way. Ooh, I don't think I'm very good at going this way. Alright, one more. Now you can drop your hands and just kind of shake them loose again. Good. Now we'll grab our myofascial release ball or tennis ball. If you have a foam roller, you can also grab that, and it will do very similar things, just not as targeted. It'll be more general, but that will work just as well. So we're just going to start by rolling out our hands. So you're going to come to kind of a tabletop position. You don't want to dump your whole weight into the hand. That's kind of a lot for your hand to deal with. But just kind of sit back on the feet, and we're going to start by just rolling our palms out. So you're going to make big circles all the way around that palm, making sure that you're touching each digit, a bottom digit of the hand. So right where the pinky, the ring finger, the middle finger, the pointer finger, and the thumb meet the palm. That connection to the rest of the hand. And maybe the thumb really needs to be rolled out. You'll kind of notice as you're making these circles where you feel really tight. And you can pause and take a moment there. Like, I'm pretty tight right at the base of my thumb, which makes sense. I type a lot throughout my day. And maybe the outside edge of the hand, that one always feels really good. Kind of like you're karate chopping the ball. And just kind of swirl around. Give your hands some love. Good. Now let's switch to the other hand. And again, you're not dumping your whole body into this, just nice and gentle. Making sure you're making those big circles starting out, and then kind of focusing on the smaller areas. Maybe doing the karate chop roll. Rolling out the base of the thumb. Good. Now we're going to switch to our forearms just to finish out this practice. You can keep going with myofascial release once we're done if this feels really good. Just try not to overdo it or you'll be super sore tomorrow. So now we're going to kind of lay on our belly on our mats. And let me make sure you can see me. Yes. So you're going to bring the ball right at the base of the wrist. And you're just going to kind of rock left to right. You don't want to be on the wrist bones. That's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for right where the muscles connect to the wrists. So just below it, and you're just making circles here. Good. Now we're going to karate chop our ball. So you're going to rotate the hand all the way facing the outer edge of the mat, and then you're just going to continue to karate chop that ball up and down on the outer edge of the arm. Just kind of massaging those outer muscles. And then we'll roll all the way in, and this is where you kind of might have to lay a little flatter, but I want to make sure you can see me. I'm just kind of rolling that connection on the inside of the forearm. It's kind of hard to show you, but good. Go ahead and do 1 or 2 more passes. And then we're going to switch to the other hand. So starting again at the base of that wrist, not on the wrist bone, but just like a couple inches below it where the muscles attach, and making big circles. And then we're going to karate chop that ball. So you're going to rotate that hand towards the outer edge and just drive front to back. And then you might have to lay a little flatter for the inner edge, but then finding that inner edge of that forearm. Just finding any spots that feel kind of tight and rolling circles or rolling back and forth over them. Good. Now you go ahead and push yourself up, and we still have to do the top of the forearm. So you're going to grab your tennis ball, and this one is just kind of like a self-massage. So I like to do little circles, kind of starting down low and then moving up. You have more muscle connections right where kind of your elbow pit is. So you can roll right there, and that might feel really good. That might feel like enough for the top of the forearm. That's where I feel the most tight. And again, you don't need to be jamming this ball into your muscles. Just the gentle pressure here is plenty to release the muscles. Good, now go ahead and switch to the other arm. Maybe starting out low, then moving up to that meatier part of the forearm, right where the elbow pit starts. Perfect. Go ahead and do one more little pass over the top of the forearm. And you can place the ball off to the side and come to an easy seat with me as we complete our practice for today. So we're just gonna stay seated, and we'll do a few deep breaths together and just kind of feel this energy that we've released throughout the forearms and the wrists. So go ahead and place your hands on your body somewhere. Usually your legs feels pretty comfortable when you're in a seated position. And close the eyes. And just start to draw the breath into the nose. And find that ujjayi breath, so swirling the breath in the back of the throat, and then releasing it through the nose. We'll do a couple of those breaths here. Kind of calling it the Darth Vader breath, because we make that noise through the back of our throat. Go ahead and do one more deep breath in and out through the nose. And then keeping your eyes closed, just bring your hands to heart center and kind of tuck your chin. Notice how your forearms and your hands are feeling. You might have a lot of heat coming from your hands, maybe some tingling sensations. Just take a moment to feel the energy moving through the wrists, forearms, and the hands. And just to find a moment of gratitude for this practice, for the ability to take care of this vessel and create longevity for the rest of our lives. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, morning, wherever you're at. If you enjoyed this practice, please like and subscribe to this video. My Venmo and PayPal are at the bottom if you'd like to send tips or donations. Everything you do to show support is super helpful for me getting out content to you guys, continuing to teach you about this practice that I love so much, and just doing what I love. We did do some myofascial release today, so make sure you stay hydrated because that does tend to kind of dehydrate us. It breaks up the tissue. The tissue needs some hydration after that to keep it healthy. So make sure you drink some water after this practice and work on engaging those hands in your next yoga practice. Thank you so much again for joining me. Goodbye, friends.